Hey guys, it's Ren from Make It by Ren, and if you want to see my video demonstrating how to use Graftobian foundations and powders, stay tuned for more. Hey y'all, so I'm back with another video, and this is part 2 to my Graftobian foundations and powders video. I'm going to demonstrate how to use the products on myself, how to match them, and get a really nice end result. And that way you can see how these products perform. If you want to see my review on the palettes and what I think about them, check out part 1. And I'm going to show you that if you have a hard time matching your own personal foundation color, you will not have a problem finding a color match with these Graftobian foundations and powders, just because there's such a nice range available. So let's go ahead and get started. I have a clean face, no makeup on. So what I'm going to do is actually prime my face. So I'm just going to apply this all over myself. If I was doing this on a client, I would use a brush, a foundation brush. So let's just pretend that I did that if I was showing you how to use this on someone else. So this is going to be a nice base for your foundation. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and correct. I have the Graftobian corrector palette right here, and I'm mainly just going to correct right here, my under eye circles. So I'm going to get this soft orange because that color neutralizes the darkness under my eyes. And all you need is a tiny, tiny bit, like that much. And I got it out with a steel palette scooper knife because that's the most sanitary way to do this. If this is in your kit, I never ever dip a brush into a cream product unless it's a completely sanitary, like disposable, and I only dip it in once. But for the most part, it's always a steel palette knife that's sanitary, or that's sanitized, just because if you double dip, you're contaminating the cream product. Even if you spray it down with alcohol, it's embedded into the bacteria is embedded into the cream, so it's pretty much contaminated. So you take your palette knife if you're doing this for, on a client, and then you can go ahead and put it on a palette. So palette knife, scoop it off, and there you go. And then to conceal the under eye circles, you can take your synthetic brush, you can take your fluffy contouring brush, that's what some people do, and then I'm just going to pat it underneath like this. For me, I like to concentrate on the inner part of the lower lid, just because that's where the darkest part is for me. And I just blend it out with my finger. If someone doesn't have super dark under eye circles, I'll use a fluffy eyeshadow brush like I mentioned, just to get it and buff it out, because it gives a nice finish, and it's not as thick looking. But if you have someone who has really bad circles, I like using the synthetic brush because it really packs down the color and it doesn't move or buff it away. Remember to tap, do not swipe and wipe away, tap. So that way you don't lose any coverage. So if I have a little bit of other places to correct, I could take some other colors here. Like let's say I want to correct a little bit of the redness on my cheeks, which I always have. I can take this green and mix it in with, let's say I'm going to mix it in with my foundation, and here's the green right here. Again, you don't need a lot, and that way it can really neutralize that green. I'm going to show you what it looks like when you put it on by itself. So here's the green, and I'm applying it on just a round brush like this for your eyeshadow. You can apply it like this, but you're going to see probably remnants of green, so you have to be really careful. See how it looks green? And because of that, that's why I prefer to mix the green with a foundation, then apply it by itself. Using the orange on your own is okay, but not the green. So I'm going to wipe it off, and then I'll show you how to really use it. So now that I corrected my under eye circles, you can go ahead and correct any spots. And now I'm going to jump right into the foundation. I'm going to use the warm foundation palette, and I know that this is my match because I have more of like a yellow warm undertone to my skin. You can see here, it just kind of takes practice, but you'll learn to be able to spot what you think works by looking on here and looking at my skin tone. I'm going to be somewhere in this range right here, right in the middle. So what you can do is just scoop out a tiny bit, like that much. You don't need a lot. So I'm going to test it like right here, and it blends right in. So if you have a client that has darker perimeter around their face, then it's not going to work if you put the darker foundation all over. Keep in mind, a lot of people, especially women of color, are lighter in the center. So you can definitely go back to your palette, and let's say this is the center of your face, go down to the darker areas, because chances are they're going to be also in the same palette, but just a few shades darker. But since I found my match, then that's really all I need to do. So I'm going to take just a little bit more, and this is all you need for your entire face right here, okay? And that's why this foundation palette, if you use it correctly, is more than enough. So I have it on my palette. If I was doing this on the client, I would take the fluffy eyeshadow blending brush and dot just a little bit on, and then I would conceal the areas. And then when you do this method, it's like automatically their complexion looks really great, and then you don't have to use as much overall foundation. That way it looks more like skin. So this is my method. I mean, this is how I do it. So you might have another way, but I'm showing you how I do it. I'm going to show you with that green shade. So here's the green right here. If you want, you can tap it back and forth into it, and that way it's kind of like a mix of the green and brown. And then you can apply it on the red areas and buff it in, and it doesn't look as weird. So it's neutralizing like the little red parts of my cheek, and it doesn't look like green and weird. So that's what I would do with the client. I don't really have a lot of spots to conceal, so I'm going to do the second step that I like to do for my clients. I love using MAC Face and Body Mixing Medium because it's going to thin out the foundation into liquid foundation. And I used it in the cream state as a concealer, and most people don't need the whole cream foundation all over themselves. So instead, I'm going to thin it out to be more of a medium coverage. So I put a little bit of the mixing medium on here. And then I'm going to take my knife, and then I'm going to thin it out. Like that. So now you have a liquid foundation. I would take a foundation brush. You can use any brush you want. I'm going to use the MAC 187. And then dot it, and then go all over. And that way you have a nice sheer layer, and it looks like skin. It won't look like you have a mask, because no one wants that look. If you want more, you can always go back and get a little bit more, but this is really all I need. And I always make sure to get into the hairlines and into this area to blend out any kind of mask look. I mean, it was really quick and easy, right? Most of the time it doesn't take long for me to match someone's foundation and do it. If they do have a lot of skin problems, though, I would recommend doing the foundation in the cream state, and if you need to thin it out, you can do the wet sponge method that Eve Pearl does and kind of thin it out, because then you'll get more coverage that way. But for most clients, this is the way I do it. So now that I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and set. So let's say, like, if I look at my skin right now, it's a pretty good match, but I could make myself look a little bit more tan if I wanted, because my skin right here, I got tanner this weekend, so my face had the SPF all up on it, but this part didn't have as much. So I could always correct that by going to the Pro Powders, and then just get a fluffy brush, and then I'm going to get more of this warmer tone right here. And when I do my clients, like, I kind of got used to it, but I just bounce back between at least like 2 or 3 colors, or even go like this, because it almost like is a better match because you mix the colors once again. So that's why I go through multiple colors, and then I'm gonna Just go all over. And this is going to set, and also gives me a little bit more coverage. It's not quite matte. The finish is actually matte, but looks like more of a satin because it's more like skin, which is what you do want on HD. You don't want super matte, you want something that looks like actual skin, which is what this does. So I set, and as you can see, it looks nice and even. And now I'm going to show you another step. I'm going to use as the same powders. Actually, I'm going to use a neutral powder palette, and then I'm going to highlight and contour. So I'm going to take just whatever brush that I want to use to contour. I'm going to take the darker powders, and then this is going to blend so nicely on top of the other powder that I put to set my makeup, and then I'm going to contour. This is actually a really cool palette to have for your own personal collection because you'll have all of your powders here to set to powders that you can wear alone if you want more of a lighter coverage, and your contouring and highlighting powders. So for those of you who are a little bit more advanced because you've been watching YouTube videos for a long time and doing all your friends' makeup, this is a really good tool to have. And so as you can see, I'm creating the shadows on my face from this palette, and it blends really, really easily. And I picked the neutral palette like I mentioned in my first video because it has warm shades, but they are on the cooler side or more neutral side, so they mimic more of a shadow than than a bronzer. Because sometimes bronzers used as contours are a little bit too warm. So you can take the same ones. I'm just using a fluffy eyeshadow brush, and then you can use this as a nose contour. And since it's not too warm, it looks a little bit better on your nose because, like I said, if you use a bronzer, sometimes it looks weird having such a reddish color on your nose. Then you can go back and pick out a lighter color to do the highlighting. So I'm just going to go up here, back and forth, and go right on top. And I like to go right here to define that the depth of your hollows. And then you can go and get the chin. This is just a really quick one. If you want it, you can go more dramatic. And then you can go down the center of your nose to make the bridge pop. Like that. Okay, so everything is nice and blended. It was really easy. And Graftobian also covers, they also carry blush palettes, which are awesome. I have the warm powder one, which is great because it has a lot of warm tones. So here are the warm powder blushes. So you can take any one you want. Let's go ahead and take this one. We'll take this pink. And then I'm going to apply it to my cheeks. And these are nicely pigmented and really, really smooth. They're not chalky at all. Very high quality blushes. And this kind of just finishes off the look. So my face looks really like flawless. It doesn't look fake. It just looks like I have good glowy skin. You could take it a step further. And Graftobian has their, they have this in the same silver palette, which is like how they carry all of their blushes. All their blushes, eyeshadows, and pro powders are all in this same shape, which is kind of cool because you get a lot of product for your money. But I like using their eyeshadows as highlighters, like shimmery highlighters. This is the Graftobian Fantasize 8 color palette number 2, and I'm taking the shade Golden Opal. I've done this in a couple of tutorials already, but it's a nice champagne-y golden shade, and I'm going to pop it right on top of my cheekbones. And it's going to give me a nice highlight. I'm not sure if that's picking up on camera, but I'm going right on top here. And it gives a really nice glow. So that really gives you that glowy skin look. See how it's catching the light? So yeah, that's how you use the Graftobian foundation powders, correctors. And as you can see, it's really easy. You don't need a lot of foundation. I've had one of my clients actually get the foundation palette after, and she was surprised at how small it was. But I told her, I was like, look, you don't need a lot, and I just showed you that you need like this much, like the size of half a pea to get the coverage for a full face. So that's my video on applying the Graftobian products. If you want to check out these products on your own, go to graftobian.com, or you can check out my blog at makeupbyrenren.com. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check out my other tutorials using these Graftobian products. I have a bunch. I have some new tutorials coming up that are fun and crazy, as well as neutral and wearable. So I hope you guys enjoyed. And until next time, have a great night. Ciao, Bellas.